Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade. But the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hands shall not disturb it, or the country's done for. You will therefore permit me to repeat emphatically that Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. Secret and self-contained, and solitary as an oyster.
From 1984 by George Orwell.
It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith, his chin nuzzled into his breast in an effort to escape the vile wind, slipped quickly through the glass doors of Victory Mansions, though not quickly enough to prevent a swirl of gritty dust from entering along with him. The hallway smelt of boiled cabbage and old rag mats. At one end of it, a coloured poster, too large for indoor display, had been tacked to the wall. It depicted simply an enormous face, more than a metre wide. The face of a man of about 45, with a heavy black moustache and ruggedly handsome features. On each landing opposite the lift shaft, the poster with the enormous face gazed from the wall. It was one of those pictures which are so contrived that the eyes follow you about when you move. Big Brother is watching you, the caption beneath it ran.
Exercise. Translate.
We kept our noses to the grindstone and our mouths shut.
They really have to win this match, otherwise they're done for.
Rajiv has just graduated from university and the world is his oyster.
After much hesitation, the editor finally ran the story about police corruption.
She's so talented that she can turn her hand to anything she wants. Fifty-ninth lesson. Best words in the best order. The Sun Rising by John Donne.
Busy old fool, unruly sun, why dost thou thus through windows and through curtains call on us? Must to thy motions lovers' seasons run? Love, all alike, no season knows nor clime, nor hours, days, months, which are the rags of time. Thy beams so reverend and strong, why shouldst thou think? I could eclipse and cloud them with a wink, but that I would not lose her sight so long. If her eyes have not blinded thine, look, and tomorrow, late, tell me whether both the Indias of spice and mine be where thou left'st them, or lie here with me. Ask for those kings whom thou saw'st yesterday, and thou shalt hear, all here in one bed lay. She's all states, and all princes I, nothing else is. Princes do but play us, compared to this, all honours mimic, all wealth alchemy. Thou, son, art half as happy as we, in that the world's contracted thus. Thine age asks ease, and since thy duties be to warm the world, that's done in warming us. Shine here to us, and thou art everywhere. This bed thy centre is, these walls thy sphere.
Come Close and Sleep Now by Roger McGough.
Come close and sleep now. It is afterwards and you talk on tiptoe. Happy to be part of the darkness. Lips becoming limp, a prelude to tiredness. Come close and sleep now, for in the morning, when a policeman disguised as the sun creeps into the room, and your mother disguised as birds calls from the trees, you will put on a dress of guilt and shoes with broken high ideals, and refusing coffee, run all the way home.
Exercise. Translate.
Airlines have started to fine unruly passengers.
Hundreds of thousands of Britons have left the country in search of a warmer climate.
She lost her sight at a tragically early age.
I doubt we'll win. We can but hope.
At your age, you really ought to take it easy.
Sixtieth lesson. The Real Thing? From England, England by Julian Barnes. Sir Jack Pittman wants to build a miniature England as a theme park. A consultant explains the marketing concept.
I bow to no one in my love of this country. It's a question of placing the product correctly, that's all. England, my client, is a nation of great age, great history, great accumulated wisdom. Social and cultural history, stacks of it, reams of it, eminently marketable, never more so than in the current climate. Shakespeare, Queen Victoria, Industrial Revolution, gardening, that sort of thing. If I may coin, no, copyright a phrase, we are already what others hope to become. This isn't self-pity. This is the strength of our position, our glory, our product placement. We are the new pioneers. We must sell our past to other nations as their future.
Several months later, the park is open.
It's a classic springtime day outside Buckingham Palace. The clouds are high and fleecy. William Wordsworth's daffodils are blowing in the wind. And guardsmen in their traditional busbies are standing to attention in front of their sentry boxes. Eager crowds press their noses to the railings for a glimpse of the British royal family. Promptly at 11 o'clock, the tall double windows behind the balcony open. The ever-popular King and Queen appear, waving and smiling. A 10-gun salute splits the air. The guardsmen present arms, and cameras click like old-fashioned turnstiles. A quarter of an hour later, the tall windows close again until the following day. All, however, is not as it seems. The crowds and cameras are for real, so are the clouds. But the guardsmen are actors. Buckingham Palace is a half-sized replica, and the gun salute electronically produced. Gossip has it that the King and Queen themselves are not real, and that the contract they signed 2 years ago with Sir Jack Pittman excuses them from this daily ritual. Insiders confirm that an opt-out clause does exist in the royal contract, but that their majesties appreciate the cash fee that accompanies each balcony appearance.
Exercise. Translate.
They had a terrible row after Brian claimed he had to bow to the inevitable.
She watched through the bow window as he mowed the lawn.
Three city traders have been arrested for insider dealing.
He seems too nice to be true. Is he for real?
My school has opted out of local authority control. 61st lesson. A budding writer.
Hiya, Dave. Long time no see. What are you up to these days?
Believe it or not, I'm giving up my job to become a full-time writer. I've been thinking about it for ages, so I finally decided to take the plunge.
Giving your job up? But you've only just started. You want to starve or what?
Don't be so cynical. A cynic is a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Hey, that's not bad. Did you make that up yourself? Tell the simple truth.
You know how it is. The truth is rarely pure and never simple.
Come clean. You're copying from someone. You've got no experience as a writer.
You know what they say, don't you? Imitation is the truest form of flattery, and experience is the name we give to our mistakes. Anyway, I sent off a sample chapter of my novel to some literary agents, on the off chance. Then I called them all up, and one called me back. He said he was willing to represent me. A few of the others sent the manuscript back with a rejection slip, but most didn't even bother.
They didn't send it back? Bastards. They'll regret it when your book tops the bestseller list. What kind of novel is it anyway? And how do you go about writing?
It's a detective thriller. I've been writing down ideas in a notebook for years. All I had to do then was to write them up into a narrative, which was a doddle. I've also worked in a couple of quotes from other authors, just to liven up the style.
Liven it up. You mean to pass other people's work off as your own?
Not at all. Don't you know that mediocre writers borrow, but great writers steal?
Exercise. Translate.
In his CV, he worked in a reference to the fact that he had worked in London.
Let me help you with the exercise. You're going about it the wrong way.
Long time no see. Want to come for a drink?
Eat up your dinner and I'll heat up some coffee.
How do I go about applying for a passport? "60-second lesson." The Stakeout.
It was late. A washed-out moon cast a sickly yellowish pall over the oily rooftops and the mean, rain-slicked streets. God must have made this city when he was in a bad mood. It had all the charm of a train wreck. I'd been watching Chandler's apartment for 3, maybe 4 hours. No one had gone in or come out. I needed a drink. I needed a cigarette. I needed a holiday. What I had was a pair of binoculars and a long wait ahead. Suddenly, the curtains twitched open and a face appeared at the window for a split second. It was a woman, the kind of woman who could melt a heart of stone at 20 paces. So he was there, after all. I shifted in my seat and fumbled for my .357 Magnum. I jumped as someone rapped sharply on the window. There were two of them, cops, Mutt and Jeff.
The chief want to see you. Now.
Growled Mutt. He had a face that looked like it wouldn't take no for an answer.
Yeah, right now.
Echoed Jeff.
You better come quietly or else.
Or else what? Do you guys rehearse this stuff or does it come naturally? I smiled. I certainly didn't hold it against them. After all, they were cops. The unwilling led by the unqualified, doing the unpleasant for the ungrateful. That's why I was a private eye. I could set my own rules, live by my own code with no false hopes. I know the law isn't justice. It's a flawed mechanism. Pull the right levers and you might just get a fair deal. Crime obviously pays. Otherwise, there'd be no crime. And someone's got to tackle it, or else... Okay, let's play it your way. But I warn you, I'm gonna need coffee and a smoke.
You ain't gonna get nothing but a smack in the mouth unless you move your fat butt.
Yelled Mutt, or maybe it was Jeff. All of a sudden, 3 shots rent the still night air, followed by a shrill scream. Saved by the bell, I guess. Let's go, I shouted, sprinting across the road towards the building without a backward glance.
Exercise. Translate.
We'd better leave now because we've got a long drive ahead of us.
I'm not going to hold his lack of experience against him.
Under the new law, taxpayers can be sure of getting a fair deal.
It looks like he won't take no for an answer.
There is someone in the flat. I just saw the curtains twitch open.
Sixty-third lesson.
I ain't afraid of him. I knows he's faster than me, but he don't worry me none. I never raced him before, but I'd have beaten him if I had. Anyway, I phones him up and says, "You ain't not going to win the race, mate." And he go, "That ain't what them journalists think." There's lots of other people think I'll win too. So I says, yeah, they's very pleased with theirselves now. But they'll soon see who's fastest. They don't know nothing. They don't know anything.
I'm sitting here thinking about my girl. Don't want to lose her. Ain't gonna lose her. I don't know what I'd do without my girl. I gotta find a way to keep her. Cause I love her so. Oh yeah, I love her so. Sixty-fourth lesson. Day or die?
It is impossible for an Englishman to open his mouth without making some other Englishman hate or despise him. So said George Bernard Shaw at the beginning of the last century on the subject of class and accents. Does Shaw's opinion still hold true in today's egalitarian rainbow society? Or are we Brits still class-bound and uptight about the way we speak? With me to discuss the question are Peregrine Wade-Smythe from Oxford University and Jimmy Fowler from the University of the Solent. We also have a studio audience of all ages and backgrounds, not to mention accents. Professor Wade-Smythe, is Shaw old hat, or does what he said still apply?
One wouldn't wish to sound superior, but I think that old George is still spot on. I have travelled the length and breadth of Britain, and I find that regional accents are still very much a symbol of class.
Oh, come off it. The Britain you're talking about no longer exists, mate. Just watch TV, listen to the radio, or even go to the movies. You won't hear a plummy accent nowadays.
I know, the country is going to the dogs. We no longer have any industries. The unions have seen to that. Now everyone drops their H's, and no one can pronounce the word day properly. Most regional accents are hard to understand, but the hardest of all is the Liverpudlian one.
Let's see whether the audience has anything to say. You, madam, in the striped t-shirt.
The man's talking rubbish. I'm a Scouser, and we're not just a bunch of lower-class yobs what can't talk proper.
That rather proves my point, does it not? Britain has a ruling class that doesn't rule, a working class that doesn't work, and a middle class that is not in the middle. No wonder we're confused.
And on that note, I think we better call it a day. Or, if you're from down south, a die.
Exercise. Translate.
You can tell he's from down south. Just listen to that blummy accent.
The fire brigade was on the spot just minutes after the call.
Here are the photos I told you about.
Cheers, mate.
We really couldn't have hoped for a better result.
You're not going to die today, said the surgeon. I hope not, said his patient. I've got nothing to wear to the funeral.
Sixty-fifth lesson. To err is human. From Young Science magazine.
Greg Wood, author of Bits and Bytes, is renowned for his groundbreaking work on advanced information systems. Greg is not your typical techno-geek, though. He started out by studying astrophysics, but soon dropped out of university in order to get away from academia, as he puts it. His parents had already given up on him, thinking he would never amount to anything. And his fiancée broke up with him because, in her words, their relationship was on the rocks. Only his brother stood up for him because he knew that Greg had it in him to be a top-notch researcher. Greg set out on a round-the-world trip, dropping in on colleagues in different universities, visiting old friends he hadn't seen for a while and catching up on their news. Everything was going smoothly until he came down with pneumonia in India. Stuck in hospital, he had nothing to do but read, so he was able to check up on the latest developments in the scientific world. Greg finally decided that it was time to get back to the real world and start working again. But to do what? At the time, the government was cutting down on research spending and putting more money into areas where Britain needed to catch up with its competitors. Greg decided to go in for IT because, according to him, we need to tell the difference between information, knowledge, and wisdom. He got down to work, keeping up with the latest trends and watching out for new ideas. Many of his peers looked down on him, and Greg had to put up with a lot of criticism. But he finally came up with what has become known as Greg's Law, which states, "To err is human. To really mess things up, you need a computer." Now that's wisdom.
Exercise. Translate.
Let me put it this way. He's not the brightest guy around.
Symptoms of pneumatic plague include acute pneumonia accompanied by high fever.
For great family entertainment, the veteran director's latest movie is the tops.
Sean and I have a lot of news to catch up on.
The new software has really messed things up.
Sixty-sixth lesson. I wouldn't use a cliché for all the tea in China.
Simon, you're a sight for sore eyes. I'm trying to understand this user manual. Files with an RBXL extension make it possible to add tags to websites in native mode. What on earth is that supposed to mean? It's all Greek to me.
I agree. It's as clear as mud. I usually avoid technical manuals like the plague. They're so complicated that you can't make head or tail of them. Let me try and explain. I'm no expert though. I'm basically a jack of all trades. But I've picked up a few tricks here and there. Know what I mean?
You're just like your father, a real chip off the old block. But you can explain until you're blue in the face, I still won't get it.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. First, let's make sure we've not forgotten anything. OK, so far so good. Now, all you have to do is look at this diagram. A picture is worth 1,000 words. It's as simple as falling off a log. Just double-click the file name and choose Save from the menu options.
Famous last words. Oh well, here we go. Nothing's happening.
Be patient. Everything comes in the fullness of time. A watched pot never boils.
No, something's definitely wrong, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Look, this is just a shot in the dark, but is the computer plugged in?
Of course. What do you take me for, some kind of idiot? But I suppose I'd better check. After all, better safe than sorry. Well, I'll be damned. You were right. Oh well, you live and learn.
Exercise. Translate.
Refuse to attend the Olympics? Not for all the tea in China.
I can't make head nor tail of it. It's all just Greek to me.
He's a jack of all trades and master of none. Know what I mean?
The engineer had been warning them about the danger until he was blue in the face.
Just go out there onto the pitch and give it your best shot.
Famous last words.
67th lesson. Learner vows to solve headline riddle.
A newspaper headline gives a brief description of the story it prefaces, so it should be easy to understand, should it not? Would that it were that simple. Sadly, headline writers are a law unto themselves. For a start, they get rid of small words, like articles, and they usually use only 3 verb tenses. But above all, they employ words that are shorter and punchier than those found in everyday English. The aim is to grab the reader's attention and make him or her want to look at the article.
For example, to axe means to eliminate. City to axe jobs. Employment will fall in the City of London.
Likewise, people do not have disputes. They clash. Employers and unions clash. No one is criticised, they are slammed. PM slams backbenchers. Nobody ever resigns, instead they quit. Reform Tsar quits. And all investigations are probes. Police launch drug ring probe.
To make matters worse, nouns can be verbs, and vice versa. Police probe drug ring. Puns are another headache, and many of them can be excruciating. For instance, if severe winter weather makes life tough for drivers, the article will be headlined, "Snow Joke." Or when people start buying Christmas presents before Christmas, you might read, "Xmas shoppers stocking up."
Then there are accidental puns. Bridge held up by red tape does not mean that the bridge is falling down, but that construction has been delayed by bureaucracy. Get it?
Another problem is how to decipher a string of words. For example, motor plant boss in pay deal row. The secret? Try reading the headline backwards. There is a dispute, row, over an agreement, deal, concerning the wages, pay, of the manager, boss, of a factory, plant, that makes cars, motor vehicles.
See? It's easy when you know how. Anyway, most headlines are about crime and punishment.
Exercise. Translate.
Is he tall, dark and handsome?
Would that he were.
I just don't get it. Why are they axing all those jobs?
The UN conference clashes with this week's European summit.
Our train was held up for 4 hours by snow.
The divorce created a huge headache for his sister's family. Sixtieth lesson. The language of the law.
The minute you read something you can't understand, you can be sure it was written by a lawyer.
This agreement between NewCo, hereinafter the lessor, and Hire Me, hereinafter the lessee, applies to the rental or hire of a motorized vehicle. It shall not affect other forms of letting or leasing and shall come into effect at the signature date. The vehicle shall be used primarily for personal purposes, but may, under certain circumstances, be used commercially. Where the vehicle is used as a taxi, the fare structure shall be established under fair conditions.
The lessee shall have the right to use the vehicle and must bear the associated expenses. But the lessor shall remain the bare owner of said vehicle and may not be dispossessed. The lessee shall pay for normal wear and tear and other incidental expenses, and undertakes to park the vehicle in a location where it will not incur damage from weather or other conditions, regardless of whether such damage is superficial or structural, as set forth in the third and fourth paragraphs.
Further, the lessee shall be liable for damage to vital components of the vehicle, e.g., engine, steering, brake system, and must ensure that the vehicle does not break down under normal operating conditions. Both parties agree and intend that the terms of this agreement are governed by the principle of good faith, and that the principal concern for each party is not to hinder the other party's performance of this agreement.
This agreement is subject to the English legal system, and disputes shall be referred to the Commercial Tribunal. However, should either of the parties find that the other party is not fulfilling some or all of its obligations hereunder, or if a party is caught in breach of the terms hereof, it may apply to a higher court to have the other party fined and seek damages. The guilty party must undertake to pay the sum determined by the court within 30 business days. In witness whereof, the parties hereto have caused their duly authorized officers to execute this agreement as of the above date.
What's even worse is that lawyers call such long, complex documents briefs.
Exercise. Translate.
Torrential rain caused the river to burst its banks.
Parliamentary ping-pong is when a bill goes back and forth between the Commons and the Lords.
The presidential spokesperson briefed journalists on the outcome of the high-level meeting.
Driving carefully not only saves fuel, but also reduces wear and tear on your car.
If I find you breaking the law, I'll have you fined.
69th lesson. Words fail me.
What's got into Brian? He seems to be in very high spirits today.
He's on cloud 9. He says he's moving back to York because he can't take the weather down here. If you ask me, he's off his rocker. Go and talk to him. He's next door packing.
What's all this about your moving out?
Why so surprised? I've told you umpteen times that I didn't feel at home here. Chuck me that thingy there next to your foot. I've got room for it in my backpack.
What thingy? Oh, you mean the what's it? Here. Catch. What time are you off? I hope we've got time for a last drink together.
I've booked a taxi to take me to the station. It'll be here at 5-ish.
That gives us 2 hours, give or take 5 minutes. Let's have a party.
Actually, I'm partied out. I've been saying my goodbyes for the last 2 days. And I just had a farewell drink with Leonie and a man, what's his name?
Oh yeah, what's his face? I can never remember his name. So what?
She served cheesecake with lashings of custard and a dollop of cream on top. I'm stuffed.
All right, let's just have a beer or something. Feel like a beer?
Whatever. I've got to finish packing my things.
What are you going to do for a living?
Dunno, this and that. Freelancing, consulting, stuff like that. I might even get in touch with what's it? You know, Sammy. He's invented a gizmo for reducing battery consumption on electric cars. He said he might have something for me, or words to that effect.
I only hope you know what you're doing. I'll go and get a couple of what names from the thing.
You what? Oh, thanks. Well, goodbye. Take care of yourself.
You too. Keep in touch. Cheers.
Exercise. Translate.
Conversational speech involves a give and take of questions and answers.
She's not my sister, she's my mother.
You what?
We buy any kind of furniture, chairs, tables, whatever.
Go talk to him. He's gone right off his rocker.
She asked him for the umpteenth time to fix the radiator.
Seventieth lesson.
Man held over blaze.
A man has been detained by the police in connection with a fire.
White Xmas on the cards.
It is likely to snow this Christmas. MOD ups arms spending.
The Ministry of Defence has increased expenditure on weapons. Steelmaker snubs aid offer.
A steel manufacturer has rejected an offer to assist it financially.
UN envoy hails quake response.
An emissary from the United Nations has welcomed the public response to an earthquake.
Brits jet away to sunny climes.
Britons are flying off to warmer countries.
High Court backs curbs on teen models.
The High Court is in favour of restrictions on teenage fashion models.
Ousted press chief bids for top job.
The head of a press organisation, a chief editor, who had been dismissed, is now trying to obtain a high-level position.
Ambulance in Mersey Dash runs over man.
An ambulance responding to an emergency call has hit a male pedestrian.
Spy probe for secrets leak row.
A noisy disagreement about the disclosure of secrets has led to an investigation into spying.